What if the most important part of the future is the part no one ever sees? The silent systems working in the background while the world looks elsewhere, distracted by what shines brightest. This story begins not in orbit, not with rockets tearing through the sky, but on the ground, where purpose meets patience and vision becomes infrastructure. Starlink's ground stations represent the unseen determination behind global connectivity, quietly transforming empty fields and remote locations into gateways of possibility. They are reminders that progress is not only about bold launches, but about steady foundations, built with intention, resilience, and long-term belief in human potential. Every great leap forward begins with something grounded, something stable, something prepared to carry weight when the moment arrives. Inspiration often comes from visible triumphs, yet real transformation depends on what supports those victories behind the curtain. The ground stations of Starlink are a perfect metaphor for life itself, because while satellites race across the sky, these stations remain anchored, listening, transmitting, adapting, and never seeking applause. They connect space-based internet to Earth, translating ambition into reality through cables, antennas, and relentless engineering. This hidden network proves that progress is not accidental. It is designed, maintained, and protected through foresight. When people talk about innovation, they usually celebrate speed, but endurance is what keeps innovation alive. There is a philosophy quietly embedded in this system, one that reflects how meaningful change actually happens. Starlink ground stations are built with redundancy, with backups prepared for storms, outages, and uncertainty. When weather disrupts one path, another is already waiting. When systems fail, alternatives activate without drama. This is not just engineering, it is a mindset. It teaches that success is not about avoiding failure, but about preparing for it so thoroughly that failure loses its power. In life, as in technology, resilience is rarely loud, but it is always effective. At the center of this philosophy is a belief that the future should be accessible, reliable, and scalable. The network does not depend on a single point of success because reliance is fragile. Instead, it is distributed, adaptable, and designed to grow. This mirrors the thinking associated with Elon Musk, whose projects consistently challenge the idea that limitations are permanent. The lesson here is not about admiration, but about understanding the discipline behind ambition. Vision alone does nothing unless it is supported by systems strong enough to carry it forward through chaos. As this network expands, the ground stations quietly shoulder increasing responsibility. They manage enormous flows of data, synchronize complex movements in orbit, and maintain stability while the environment constantly shifts. This balance between motion and stillness is powerful. Satellites move at incredible speeds, but without something grounded to guide them, they would be meaningless. In the same way, personal ambition without structure leads to burnout, confusion, and collapse. Grounding your goals, building routines, and preparing for disruption are what allow momentum to last. The suspense lies in a question few people stop to ask. What happens when the spotlight fades, when excitement wears off, and when conditions turn hostile? That is when infrastructure is tested, not when everything is calm, but when storms arrive and systems are pushed beyond comfort. Starlink's redundancy planning exists for those moments, the moments no one wants but everyone must face. It reveals a deeper truth. The unseen work done today determines whether tomorrow survives pressure. Preparation is invisible until it saves everything. Understanding this hidden half of the network invites a shift in perspective. Instead of chasing recognition, there is value in becoming dependable. Instead of rushing toward results, there is strength in building capacity. The ground stations never ask for attention, yet millions depend on them without realizing it. This is how real impact often works. It is quiet, consistent, and essential. When you align your efforts with that principle, you stop measuring success by applause and start measuring it by durability. This is not just a story about technology. It is a reflection on how progress truly unfolds. Every reliable system is built by people who chose preparation over praise, structure over shortcuts, and patience over ego. The hidden infrastructure behind Starlink reminds us that the future belongs not only to dreamers, but to builders who stay when others move on. And as you begin to see what operates beneath the surface, you realize that the most powerful forces shaping tomorrow are already at work today, steady, grounded, and quietly unstoppable. There is motivation in recognizing that invisibility does not mean insignificance, and that the systems you build when no one is watching often matter most when everyone is counting on you. Ground stations symbolize commitment to continuity, to showing up every day regardless of recognition. They operate in silence, yet they carry the weight of connection for remote villages, moving vehicles, and isolated regions that depend on stable access. This dependence creates responsibility, and responsibility demands discipline. When you understand this, you stop chasing shortcuts and start investing in foundations that last longer than excitement. That is where true motivation is born, not from noise, but from knowing that what you are building will matter when conditions are difficult and expectations are high, and that staying grounded is what allows bold ideas to reach farther than inspiration alone ever could. This understanding transforms effort into purpose and preparation into power that endures beyond temporary attention forever forward. As the story deepens, the focus shifts from what is built to why it matters when everything begins to shake. In the middle of any system, whether technological or personal, there is a moment when stability is tested, when pressure rises and the illusion of certainty disappears. This is where Starlink's ground stations reveal their quiet strength. They are designed not just for ideal conditions, but for disruption, storms, failures, and the unpredictable nature of the real world. This design choice carries a powerful lesson, because life does not operate in perfect environments. There will always be interference, unexpected resistance, and moments when the signal weakens. What determines success is not whether these moments occur, but whether the system has been prepared to withstand them. Redundancy is often misunderstood as excess, yet in reality, it is respect for uncertainty. These ground stations are placed strategically across the globe, creating overlapping coverage, so that if one station goes offline due to weather or technical issues, another immediately takes over. The transition is seamless, invisible to users, and that invisibility is intentional. The goal is not to be noticed, but to be reliable. That philosophy challenges the modern obsession with constant visibility. In a world that rewards attention, there is something radical about designing systems that work best when no one notices them at all. Suspense builds when you consider how fragile global connectivity would be without this planning. A single failure could isolate regions, disrupt communication, and expose how dependent modern life has become on unseen networks. Yet those disruptions rarely happen, not because risk does not exist, but because preparation neutralizes it. This is where inspiration quietly emerges. True confidence is built long before a crisis arrives. It is built in the planning stages, in the choices to invest more effort now, so less damage occurs later. The same principle applies to personal growth. When challenges appear, people often panic, not because the challenge is impossible, but because they were never prepared for resistance. The ground stations teach a different approach. Expect difficulty, plan for it, and remain calm when it arrives. There is also a deeper philosophical idea embedded in how these systems function together. Each ground station operates independently, yet they are part of a collective intelligence. They do not compete for relevance. They cooperate for reliability. This cooperation ensures that the network remains strong, even if individual components fail. It is a reminder that resilience often comes from connection rather than isolation. In life, the strongest individuals are rarely those who try to handle everything alone. They are those who build networks of support, skills, and backups. The suspense intensifies when you imagine what happens during extreme conditions. Heavy rain, snowstorms, power outages, and even geopolitical challenges all threaten continuity. Yet the system persists. It adapts, reroutes, and survives. This adaptability reflects a mindset that refuses to be fragile. It echoes the broader philosophy often associated with Elon Musk, where systems are designed to push boundaries while remaining grounded in practicality. Ambition without resilience collapses under pressure, But ambition supported by preparation becomes unstoppable. There is something deeply motivating about recognizing that greatness is rarely spontaneous. It is engineered. Every layer of redundancy represents a choice to value long-term success over short-term convenience. That choice is not glamorous, but it is transformative. As the middle of this narrative unfolds, the unseen tension becomes clear. The real challenge is not launching satellites or achieving breakthroughs, but sustaining them when conditions are unfavorable. Sustainability is where many visions fail, because it demands patience, humility, and ongoing effort. Starlink's ground stations embody those qualities. They require maintenance, monitoring, upgrades, and constant evaluation. They are never finished, because the future is always evolving. This continuous process mirrors personal development. Growth is not a destination. It is a system that must be maintained. Skills degrade if neglected, discipline weakens without practice, and purpose fades without reinforcement. The network's design acknowledges this truth by never assuming permanence. Everything is built to be improved, replaced, or adapted. This acceptance of change is not weakness, it is wisdom. The suspense resolves into clarity when you realize that the hidden half of the network is not secondary, but foundational. Without it, the visible achievements would be meaningless. This realization challenges how success is measured. Instead of asking what is most impressive, the better question becomes what is most dependable. Dependability is rarely celebrated, yet it is what carries progress forward when excitement fades. The motivation here is subtle but powerful. It encourages a shift away from chasing moments of recognition toward building systems that endure beyond individual attention spans. The ground stations operate with discipline, consistency, and respect for reality. They do not assume favorable conditions. They prepare for unfavorable ones. That preparation transforms uncertainty into manageable risk. In human terms, this means developing habits, skills, and support structures that hold steady when motivation dips or obstacles appear. The middle of every journey is where doubt lives, where energy drops and clarity blurs. It is also where preparation proves its value. By understanding the hidden resilience of Starlink's infrastructure, you are reminded that strength is often invisible until it is needed most. And when it is needed, it does not hesitate, does not panic, and does not seek validation. It simply functions, carrying the weight of connection forward, proving that the most meaningful systems are the ones that keep going when everything else is tested and uncertainty tries to take control. As the narrative reaches its final stretch, understanding transforms into appreciation, and appreciation evolves into responsibility. Once you recognize the unseen systems that sustain progress, it becomes impossible to ignore the role they play in shaping the future. Starlink's ground stations are no longer just technical installations. They become symbols of commitment to continuity, proof that the future is not built on moments of brilliance alone, but on systems designed to last. These stations operate day and night, indifferent to praise, focused only on performance. They represent the quiet discipline required to keep ambitious visions alive, long after the initial excitement has faded. This is where motivation takes on its most mature form, shifting from inspiration fueled by novelty to purpose sustained by reliability. The unseen infrastructure behind Starlink reminds us that progress depends on people and systems willing to carry responsibility without recognition. This realization invites a deeper reflection on how success is approached in life. Many people chase visibility, believing that being seen is the same as being valuable. Yet these ground stations challenge that belief. They demonstrate that value often exists where attention does not. They prove that impact is measured not by applause, but by consistency. Millions of users rely on these systems without ever thinking about them, and that dependence is the highest form of trust. Trust is earned through reliability over time, not through promises or appearances. The motivation here is subtle but profound. It encourages building something that works, even when no one is watching. Something that remains strong when conditions are uncomfortable. As the system expands, each ground station becomes part of a global promise that connection will not fail when it is needed most. This promise requires humility, because it accepts that failure is possible and prepares for it anyway. That humility is often overlooked, yet it is essential for sustainable growth. The philosophy aligns with the broader mindset often associated with Elon Musk, where bold ideas are paired with rigorous engineering and contingency planning. The lesson is clear. Dreaming big is only meaningful if the foundation beneath those dreams is strong enough to support them. As the story concludes, the suspense resolves into a quiet truth. The most important work is rarely glamorous, but it is always essential. Ground stations do not inspire awe like rockets or satellites, yet without them, those achievements would be incomplete. This mirrors how meaningful lives are built. The routines, habits, and preparations that seem boring are often what make extraordinary outcomes possible. Success is not a single moment. It is a system that must function under pressure. By appreciating the hidden half of the network, viewers are invited to shift their perspective on progress itself. Instead of focusing only on visible milestones, there is value in honoring the processes that make those milestones possible. This shift fosters patience, discipline, and respect for complexity. It also encourages gratitude for the unseen efforts that support modern life. Every stable connection, every uninterrupted service, and every reliable system is the result of countless decisions made with foresight. Recognizing this builds a deeper sense of responsibility, because once you understand how much effort goes into stability, you begin to value it more. The final motivation lies in applying this understanding personally. Building your own foundation means investing in skills, planning for setbacks, and creating redundancy in your life so that challenges do not derail your progress. It means accepting that resilience is not accidental, but intentional. Just as Starlink's ground stations are prepared for storms and outages, individuals can prepare for uncertainty by building strong habits and support systems. This preparation does not eliminate difficulty, but it transforms how difficulty is handled. When challenges arise, preparation turns panic into problem solving. That is the ultimate power of unseen infrastructure. It gives confidence, not because failure is impossible, but because recovery is guaranteed. The story of Starlink's hidden network becomes a reminder that the future belongs to those who respect complexity and commit to reliability. It is an invitation to build quietly, to prepare thoroughly, and to measure success by endurance rather than attention. As the narrative closes, the message is simple but enduring. Appreciate what you cannot see, because it is often what holds everything together. Progress is not just about reaching higher. It is about staying connected when conditions are harsh. The ground stations stand as silent guardians of that connection, embodying a philosophy of responsibility, resilience, and long-term thinking. They remind us that true innovation is not only about what captures imagination, but about what sustains reality. And in that understanding lies a deeper form of motivation, one rooted not in excitement, but in purpose, not in visibility, but in value. If you are benefiting from our topics, please subscribe, like, and turn on the bell notification so you can see our new videos early.